Hello, this is Dr. Mike Brooks. I'm a licensed psychologist and the director of the Austin Psychology and Assessment Center, or ApaCenter. Today's video blog topic is part 4 on a series I'm doing on the issue of, does video game violence cause children and adolescents to become violent? So I've done 3 already. This is the 4th, and I also did a one segment that was on the benefits of video games, because I think that's important to look at it. There are benefits of video games, and not that they should all be vilified or anything. But on today's, what we're going to do is look at the evolution of violence in video games. So we're going to kind of step back in time, and I'm going to show you some images of video games from yesteryear and currently, and through the years, and then some clips as well. So I do want to preface this by saying that a lot of these games are M-rated, which means they're for mature players, and that means 17 and up. So a lot of these games are not intended for young players, and I would say there's good reason they're not intended for young players. But nevertheless, children are playing some of these games, so I think it's important as parents that we look at what kids are playing, or at least could be playing, and that we need to watch out for. And why there's concern about the effects of video game violence is some of these graphical images and video clips are pretty over the top. So again, be warned, but it is important to see what's out there. So I've got my iPad again here, and it's going to be a PowerPoint presentation, so I'm just going to talk through the images as you see them, and we'll stroll back in time and go through to the present and see what the violence looks like in these video games. So we'll start out with boxing. This is by Activision for the Atari 2600, 1980. You can see how blocky the images are. I had this game on my Atari 2600 when I was a kid, and funny, these were considered fairly realistic by those standards at the time. And even back in those days, people were concerned about the level of violence in video games, and some parents were alarmed. But you look at it now through the lens of what's available today, and this doesn't look like anything to worry about. Then we'll go up to 1983. This is a ColecoVision, and I had a ColecoVision and was very proud, a proud owner of Rocky Boxing, and you can see how much more realistic it is than the Activision Boxing. And this is from Rocky 3. You can see Rocky, and it's the Mr. T character, I think Clubber Lang, if recollection serves, something like that. And they're fighting there, and there were only 2 characters, Rocky and Clubber, and but that was considered a real leap compared to the Activision Boxing. Now we'll go up to Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. This is for the Nintendo Entertainment System, the NES, 1987. This was also a version of Punch-Out was in the arcades. It didn't have Mike Tyson. That was for the NES, had the Mike Tyson character. See the step up in quality in the graphical detail, and you can make out that that's Mike Tyson. You can see his chipped tooth or whatever there. And now we'll go up to the Muhammad Ali heavyweight boxing on the Sega Genesis, and this is 1992. Again, you can see kind of their shoes and their laces and the trunks and the stripes and stuff, so it's gone up a little in quality, graphical quality. Now we go to Ready to Rumble boxing for the PlayStation, 1999. And you can see this has more of a 3-dimensionality to it. It has polygon graphics and to create this more of a 3D effect. And now we go up to the PlayStation 2, just 3 years later from the Ready to Rumble. And this is King of the Ring. And you can see Muhammad Ali getting hit in the face, looks like by Smokin' Joe Frazier. Got him with a left cross or hook. You can see Muhammad Ali's lip, you know, going, the physics of it. And you can see their muscles and more definition there. Now we go to Fight Night Round 2 for the PlayStation 2, 2005. Again, you can see kind of the droplets of blood and sweat glistening and the hair follicles. Now look at this jump in quality. This goes from 2005 to 2006. So now we're on the Xbox 360 though, and that's, you know, a jump up. Fight Night Round 3. And I think I have my facts all straight here on the names and the platform and the year. I wouldn't be surprised if someone caught me on some errors, but you know, try my best here, and I'll be close, if not exact. And you can see, look at the detail here, the beads of sweat, the swelling around the eyebrows, like goatee, the stubble, shadow, lighting, reflection, all caught in here. And the next one is Fight Night Champion Edition, Xbox 360, 2011. So look at the jump up in quality here of the graphical detail, the splatters of blood. This looks like it's Oscar de la Hoya, who just did a left, looks like a cross punch to this guy who's really taken a beating. And just look at the musculature, the definition there, the face, the, you know, lips, just the swelling, hair follicles. It's all there. And now we'll go back in time again. This is Karate Champ, 1984. Data East was the manufacturer of this arcade game. And this was one that I was really good at. Love this game. And you can see again, by today's standards, it's very primitive. And this, you could fight against the computer opponent or one-on-one. This had 2 joysticks that you would use, and it was quite a lot of fun and fairly popular. Now here's Street Fighter II, 1992 by Capcom, who's still around today making games, and they were known for their Street Fighter series, and Street Fighter II in particular was very popular. And it's really 2 dimensions as far as, like, you're moving front and back and up and down, but not backward and forward. So basically people were fighting left-right on these games. And this was made for multi-platforms, and it was an arcade game as well. Now Soul Blade, this is by Namco for the Sony PlayStation, 1997. This is using the polygon graphics instead of the cartoon, so they were trying to render three dimensions here. So this one you could go forwards and backwards. And now here's Soul Calibur by Namco for the Sega Dreamcast, 1999. Again, you look at the jump in detail of this. And keep in mind there's a distinction between more graphically detailed and more realistic. Because just because something is graphically detailed doesn't mean it's realistic. And by realistic I mean, can it happen in real life, or does it happen in real life? And you can see Soul Calibur in these games, they're graphically detailed and becoming progressively more detailed over time, but you have superpowers and monsters you're fighting, and, you know, giant characters and things like that. It doesn't seem realistic as in like life. Soul Calibur 2, Xbox, 2002. In Soul Calibur 4, this is Xbox 360, 2008. I know what you're thinking. Those boobs are fake, yes. And you notice in the female characters, they're very sexualized. You know, a lot of the programmers are male, and a lot of the players of these games are male, so they're kind of pandering to guys' basic instincts here, which tends to work pretty well. And the female characters tend to have exaggerated female features, their lips and, you know, curves. And the male characters tend to have, you know, great muscles like superhero characters and all this definition and size. You know, but that's been around a long time, since the, you know, early Superman comics and stuff, of guys wanting to be like that and idealize that. And so of course when you make a game, you want to have those big muscles yourself for the game character. Now we'll go to Mortal Kombat. This is by Acclaim, multi-platform, 1993. This game caused a lot of controversy. It was known for its blood. It was known for its gruesome depictions of violence, of its fatalities, where you could do things like a spinalectomy, like remove the opponent's spine with a death blow. So after you've beat him up, it gave you an opportunity to push a sequence of buttons, and if you did it right, you would do a fatality, which was sort of a way of rubbing your opponent's nose in the victory, in your victory. You know, it would decapitations and eviscerations of the opponents. And this one, on the Sega Genesis, I think this is probably the Sega Genesis, but when it came out, interestingly, Sega allowed there to be blood, and Sega was sort of the bad boy, and Nintendo had more of a wholesome family image, and they did not allow the blood in their version of the of Mortal Kombat on the Super Nintendo. And despite the fact that there were about an equal number of Super Nintendos and Sega Genesis game systems in the US marketplace, the Sega Genesis version of Mortal Kombat outsold the Super Nintendo version 2-1, because people wanted the blood, the kids wanted the blood. And I believe that you had to enter a code to put the blood in there for the Sega Genesis version. So it was rated as less violent, so that parents would buy it, but then the kids knew how to put the code in to see the blood, which was kind of tricksy on Sega's part to do it that way. Mortal Kombat Deception, Xbox 2004. Now we've got, you know, more of a three-dimension quality to it, more blood. Yeah, they just up the ante on the blood and violence. Still had fatalities. Here's Mortal Kombat Xbox 360 2011, and you can see how gruesome this is, and, you know, eye being poked out, and it looks like the opponent being decapitated at the same time. Now we'll switch to one called The Punisher. This is PlayStation 2 by THQ 2005, and the Punisher would seek vengeance against people who wronged him, and he could extract information from his opponents by torturing them in various ways, and it had pretty gruesome ways of finishing off the opponents. You know, when you think about this, that it's putting you in the role, I mean, it's sort of a vigilante justice, but I mean, the protagonist is doing some really vile things. So this is he's putting a guy through a wood chipper, and you can see in the next image he's going further in, you know, and the victims are yelling and screaming, and, you know, blood and bone crunching, and it's really over the top. So now we're going to switch to the evolution of first-person shooters. So I've shown you some fighting games and some other types of violent games. Now, first-person shooters have been around a while, and they cause a lot of people concerns, because in some of these school shootings and other tragedies, like Columbine in Newtown, Connecticut, that the perpetrator of the violence, you know, these kids that either played in fact, first-person shooters or allegedly played them. There's some claims that they even practiced for their killings by playing first-person shooters. And he started out, this is Castle Wolfenstein. This is on the PC, 1992, made by id Software, and this is sort of what started it all as the first-person shooter. And this is set in like World War II, and I believe they had like demons and things in there at points, but you can see it's pretty blocky and pixelated, but you're seeing through this window as the shooter. You are the shooter, going through and shooting the opponents, the villains. And here's Doom. This is on the PC. This is a follow-up. This is also made by id, 1993, and there were demons and things you're fighting in here. Again, it's still fairly pixelated, but a step up. Quake, PC, 1996, made by id as well. Again, you're fighting demons and zombies and things like that. And importantly, these games could be really creepy, very scary, with things jumping out at you and doors creaking, and you're walking quietly around, you know, through corridors and that are dimly lit, and you never know what's going to jump out at you behind the next door. So it would really evoke feelings of fear. But it's kind of like why people like you know, on Halloween and going through just, you know, fun houses or spooky places and things like that. It just, you know, it's the edge of like scary and excitement. It's a razor's edge, and video games play that really well. Medal of Honor. This is another first-person shooter, and this was like World War II, I believe. And this preceded all the Call of Duty games, so it's PlayStation 1999. And now we'll switch over to Halo, which was on the Xbox and really sort of made the Xbox what it is. If it weren't for Halo, there might not be an Xbox 360. It really sold the system. It was just a very well done first-person shooter, and it was set in the future, and there are aliens, and you're like a space marine in a suit that's enhanced and gives you, you know, resistance, and there's all these special weapons you can find. And I played this game and Halo 2 through, and really loved these games. They're just so well done. And again, violent, but not realistic. Halo 2, Xbox, and this is 2004, so the follow-up to the first Halo. Now Halo 3, you can see the jump in detail. This is 2007 on the Xbox 360. And the Xbox 360, of course, had more power than the Xbox to render images and lighting and shading and all those things. Halo 4, Xbox 360, 2011. And now we'll go to Call of Duty, which you probably heard about this game, or if you have kids, they've heard about it, and their kids are playing it, not just adults, even though it's M-rated. I believe all the versions are M-rated, but they are you know, pretty violent, and multiplayer and online play is extremely popular for the Call of Duty series, and they've made about a dozen games so far, and they keep, each time a version comes out, they literally sell hundreds of millions of dollars worth of these games. So this is Call of Duty Finest Hour 2004 on the GameCube, PlayStation 2, and Xbox. And now we'll go to Call of Duty 4, Modern Warfare, PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, Wii. This is 2007. Notice the level of, this can be more realistic. I believe the Call of Duty games initially were more set in World War II and then moved over to like the Middle East or modern warfare, as the name says. And here's Call of Duty Black Ops 2, PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, 2012. Just notice like their clothing and the wrinkles in their clothes, the level of detail in their skin, and the lighting and shading and the three-dimensionality to it, and the bricks, the walls, I mean everything. It's just so graphically detailed. In the next generation, the PlayStation 4 and the next box, I think it's maybe called the Xbox 720, it'll take it even another level beyond this, if you can imagine that. And in games like Call of Duty, they are using weapons that exist in real life, and the physics involved in it are more realistic, like life. And you're not fighting aliens or anything, it's just other humans. So those are some of the images. Now let's go to the video clips, and what you're going to see is a montage of various violent video games, and these are going to be fairly recent games, and I'll just let you watch these, and the names will appear of the games and the system. A lot of these are both on the Xbox and PlayStation, Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 3. Like the Call of Duty series is on both. Halo is only on the Xbox though, it's not on PlayStation. You can see as you're watching these is, look at the level of violence, the blood that you see, the gore, and how over the top it is. That they, these games are always trying to outdo each other, and kind of the level of carnage and blood, and sometimes it can add excitement in a game to an extent, and maybe it gives players a feeling of power, of visceral reaction, but that's what some of the concerns are. Reminds me of a Simpsons I watched a long time ago, where I think it was Bart and Lisa were at the movie theater, and it was itchy and scratchy, and it was, if you ever watched The Simpsons, those itchy and scratchy videos were really over the top, and Bart and Lisa loved them, but this one was like super violent, and they were watching it at the movie theater, and Lisa turned away because it was too violent for her, and Bart says to her, "Lisa, if you don't watch the violence, you'll never get desensitized to it." So I think about that video is one of the concerns of watching the level of violence in these games, or experiencing it, or perpetrating it, is do people get desensitized to real acts of violence? So we've wrapped up this segment looking at the evolution of violence in video games, and if you're a parent and you see this, you're probably like, wow, I don't want my kids to play those, and perhaps they don't. I can say as a parent, and I have 3 boys, that and my eldest is 9, there are already some of his friends have been playing Call of Duty for about a year. I won't let my son play it, but it's weird, there's like peer pressure. He gets left out now at some get-togethers because I don't allow him to play it, but I do have concerns about these games as a parent and as a researcher. I guess the next question is, what does the research say about the effects of these violent games on kids and adolescents? Does it indeed cause them to become more violent, more desensitized? So in the next segment, and I hope you come back to join me for that, I'm going to go through what some of the research says, and we'll see if we can come up with some main findings, kind of distill those to some main points, and then after that we're going to talk about, as a parent, what you can do as a parent to keep your kids safe and minimize any of the negative effects of video game violence on your kids and capitalize on any of the benefits that I've named in the other video. So again, this is Dr. Mike Brooks, licensed psychologist, director of the Austin Psychology and Assessment Center, or ApaCenter. Thanks so much for joining me today, and I hope to see you back for the next segment.